So quickly, we've got a lot of slides to cover. I want to try to go over some of the basics, like who are we? Because I would imagine that a whole lot of people here don't know about the county's dredge program. You know, so we've been around for 30 years, but I'll bet if I raised hands here, it'd be a slim number of people that know we exist. Most of our work is done in the wintertime when everyone else is not really paying attention to what's going on in the water. You know, why are we here? You know, a lot of scientists, a lot of great studies are being shown. You know, we're the ones that do all the work on the field, the dredges. Some of the examples of the projects that I will show. I think it's important to show the photos and show the examples of a variety of projects that we've done. So here we go, real quickly. You know, we were formed in 1996. We were set up as an enterprise fund, which means that we're supposed to go ahead and make money, break even, and then put money aside. So we're not set up like a regular department. Our season starts, this is the beginning of our 30th year. We have 2 dredges. I'll go through those and show you a couple of pictures. Our season starts in September and we run through mid-June. We're a very small department. We only have 6 or 7 people, 1 superintendent, 2 levermen, and 4 deckhands. And the demand for dredging is really huge. It does not slow down. We have a backlog that continues from year to year. Fortunately, we have received some grants to keep us moving. It's a very, very capital-intense operation. We have upgraded a lot of our equipment in the last several years. And we deal with some unknowns. The unknowns go from weather, which can change every single day within 12 hours and stop us from working. We also have the inevitable mechanical breakdowns. It happens, and we have to deal with it. And then the unknown time of year, or the known time of year restrictions that we hit as early as January 15th with winter flounder, then on to piping plover shorebirds on April 1st, and then the upcoming time of year restriction for horseshoe crabs on May 1st. Each of these impacts our schedules, and all we're doing is chasing ourselves around trying to go ahead and manage our projects by these restrictions, which is challenging. Yeah, we provide dredging services to every town with the exception of Brewster, just because they don't have any navigable channels. But for the last 30 years, every town has been able to enjoy the services that the county provides. And it's really important that one of the most important takeaways is that we are about 65% below market costs for what we do. If you could find another dredge that does the kind of dredging that we do, and we really are the county's DPW. Just quickly here, because it's important, this is one of our best years right now, and we've got another 3 or 4 projects left. We have about 110,000 cubic yards, which is a lot of material that we have dredged since the beginning of this year. 6 projects, 8 towns, smallest little project, 3,100 cubic yards, the largest one, 57,000 cubic yards in Mashpee at Pompanesett Bay. That's a very big lift for us. We were able to successfully complete that project. And pipe, you know, we have a lot of pipe that we use that connects to the back of the dredge that goes all the way on the beach. Some projects are very small with 3,500 feet. Some are very, very large, like the Pompanesett project with over 2 miles of pipe. So it's a very logistic-heavy operation. It takes a long time to move dredges into position, to move pipes into position, what we call mobilizing, and then we have to demobilize at the end of a project. We have 2 dredges, the codfish and the sand shifter. These are what we call cut-ahead suction dredges. So your kind of idea of what a dredge looks like might be this big barge with a big mechanical bucket that picks up slurry, muck, stinky stuff and puts it in a barge and takes it off. We do almost exclusively sand, really clean sand. 100% of our material goes back on the beach or to do some rebuilding. Equipment, we'll skip this, but we have a lot of equipment to manage 2 dredges. So why are we here? The benefits of dredging. You know, just to kind of level set this, the most important objective that we have, number 1, is to maintain the channels on the Cape. The channels will shoal, the navigational channels have preset depths that must be maintained. Every year, we're going from project to project, sometimes the same channel over and over again, every other year, every third year. But the primary objective, the primary job or responsibility that we have is maintaining the navigational channels on the Cape. The secondary benefits are many: increasing the water flow, there's coastal resiliency, shoreline management, beach renourishment, and rebuilding critical habitat. So we'll kind of run through a few projects to show these examples. This is Mill Creek in Chatham, a very interesting project that we usually do every 3 years, but all of a sudden now it's becoming an annual project. As you can see in this picture here, this was after 2 days of dredging. There's a large town shellfish propagation area inside here. The water flow was just about cut off. We had to go ahead and dredge from the approach channel into the entrance channel, making it very challenging because of a time of year restriction of the horseshoe crabs, and we were able to get a 3-day waiver, which is never enough to do the work that needs to be done. So we were able to go ahead and work this project 1 year ago. This is what it looks like at low tide, and again, an example of dynamics, sand dynamics that's happening on the south side of the Cape. And this is just us breaking through. Kind of drastic if you look at that picture, because there's the cut ahead of the dredge, the thing that swings back and forth, cutting a hole in the shoal, and then all the water flushes through. So we improve water quality by the flushing. Now this is a picture taken last month. So in 1 year, the entire entrance is almost shutting off again. So now we're rushing around trying to get this project started in time to be completed by May 1st, which won't happen. Pamet Harbor in Truro, another project that we've done almost every single year. This is a big challenge for the town. They have a very large washover area that occurred at the end of the jetty on the north side. Not enough sand is available to keep this plugged up for every year, so we have to put sand here every year to kind of shore this up. It's right at the end of a jetty, so the jetty risks a lot of erosion, a lot of damage, and obviously water flow and disturbing the whole inner harbor. But becomes a construction site. Make no mistake about it. When we're out there doing what we're doing in January with the ground sand frozen and our equipment on the beach, but after it's done, it's all graded and it looks like we were never there. Another large project that we do is in Barnstable for Katuitt Bay. All the material that we did for this project was used to fill up another washover that occurred. This was a winter storm 2 years ago that created a breach, again, right at the end of a jetty. We put about 15,000 cubic yards of sand. We had to pump it 2 miles, and we also dredged the channel, which again was the primary objective. On the left, you can see the washover area, and then the right after it was filled in. And the logistics of these projects, are really, really very hard because it's January, it's February, it's March. We were frozen in place for 3 weeks in Sasuit this year. Another interesting project, this is Great Pond in Falmouth. A lot of the material for this project, we had to go underneath the bridge. We had to take all these big spuds out, these big telephone poles to allow us to go under the bridge, put them back in again, do the dredging, and then all the materials you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the town's DPW, they took all the sand and moved it all along Surf Drive to build up the berm to reinforce areas where they were having a lot of washover during coastal storms 2 years ago and ongoing. But an example of dredge it here, place it here, and then move it to another location. And this was the embayment that was dredged, Great Pond embayment. And showing these large dump trucks all queued up to move the sand down the road. This was the project that I mentioned earlier. This is the largest project the county has ever done, 57,000 cubic yards. We had both our dredges here. We started mid-September. We had one dredge that had to be connected to a booster barge, a big pump that was able to push the material even farther away. So we were able to take advantage of that opportunity to have 2 dredges, relatively efficient, but it was a 3-month project, which again takes a lot of time, takes us away from doing other projects as well. But this project, again, as mentioned, was one of the largest is the largest project that the county has done to date in 1 year. The shore side of this project was very interesting because year after year we've been putting material on this beach, but never with enough sand to really rebuild the berm, the shore, and to make it sustainable. So this was a large effort because another contract had to be used to do the grading on the shoreline. And there's a couple of photos here that were taken. The left one from a drone from our friend Joel. Thank you. This is near finished, but the takeaway here is that a lot of sand was used to rebuild this whole platform, the whole berm, and the whole entire spit. A project that we just finished in Aunt Lydia's Cove in Chatham 2 weeks ago. There's an island there called Turn Island. It's an Audubon property. All the material from that project, about 25,000 cubic yards, was placed on the island. The island is heavily eroded. It kind of sits out and does a little bit of a buffer for the Chatham Harbor. We dredged the basin for the commercial fishing fleet, which was the primary priority for that project. And all the material was put onto the beach. And the material was graded. Turn Island was extended, a little bit of elevation to it, building the habitat back up. I think as you can see in this photo here in the top left, that's where the material was placed, where that light sand is. And then in the bottom right is where the dredge was dredging in the basin. And kind of move into a couple of different things that I think sort of touch along some of the other topics that have been discussed. In Pocasset River, a couple of years ago, we did a project. This material could not be put back on the beach. It was not suitable for beach nourishment, so it had to get out of there. You know, the classic way would be with a mechanical dredge, putting the material onto a barge, putting it into containers, bringing it to an upland site to dispose of it. Very expensive. So we tried something a little bit different. To use these large bags that we put into a parking lot, and we pumped the material into these bags. Water drain material stayed in there. At the end of the project, the bags got cut open. This is a great picture of it showing you how big these bags got. Every day you had to run on them to break the barrier and push the water so the water could come back out again. But these bags filled up. You thought they were going to burst. Thank God they didn't burst. But the material then was taken out. The bags were cut open. It was allowed to dry. And in this case, they trucked the material to the Bourne landfill to be reused. No contaminants. It was clean mud. But that was the project here. So this kind of gave us at least the ability to know that we can do larger projects with geo bags. Again, we're looking at other places where we could do this because proof of concept was, we did it on a very small scale, but certainly it can be scaled up with a larger dredge. And then we're talking about something that we are very, very interested in doing. As we all know, the DEP did issue this guidelines on doing sort of a thin layer placement a year ago, December. We're waiting to become, the first test case to find places where we can do this work. Our dredges are both, as I mentioned before, these cut-ahead suction dredges. So they suck the material up, and it pumps on a long, long pipe, and it goes someplace. So the idea of what we do here is that we would not be pumping it onto the beach. We would like to be using what we have here as this discharge attachment. And just showing you some pictures, it's in use in many, many other places, obviously outside of Massachusetts. But spraying the material is the preferred method of being able to go ahead and put the material onto the marsh or wherever. But it can cast large distances depending on the weight of the material, whether it's sand not as far, whether it's finer organics much farther. So the dredges are predisposed to this is the point. We don't need to be buying and don't need to be getting more equipment. Everything is in place. The logistics really are the challenge. And I won't get into the benefits of this. I'm sure that'll be covered soon with Wenley's next talk. So I think in summary here for us, we've been seeing that for the last 30 years, this sand just keeps on going around and around and around and around. And every year, depending on the project, some places are very predictable, where we're seeing the same projects that need to be done. And then in other cases, they are not predictable anymore. Things are changing. We know it's changing. And we are really trying to go ahead and adapt to provide the service that all the towns need to be able to dredge their waterways. We know the consequence of us not doing the dredging, and we've seen that in some cases where that 1 year where we can't do a certain project, Everybody comes out with the pitchforks and says, why didn't you do it? I can't get my boat out of the channel. It's really, really challenging. But it is true that the channels will shoal up and the boats can't get out. And when we're representing commercial fishing in Saquatucket or commercial fishing in Lydia's Cove or Allen Harbor or a whole bunch of other places, that's a really important imperative of ours. And the same with the recreational side, where the Cape obviously relies on tourism and a recreational economy. For boating, where recreational boating economy. So that's a very important point in keeping these channels clear. And the job right now, as we say, is doing it with two dredges and a very small crew is very, very challenging, especially for the fact that, come Memorial Day, we're done. Nobody wants to see a pipe on the beach with stinky stuff coming out of it while you're sitting there in your lounge chair. But it's a short-term fix. A lot of the projects that I tried to show, they have been done over and over and over again. We've rebuilt Cirillo, I think, 3 times now, where that washover has occurred. There's not enough sand that's going to keep that intact. The water level at high tide comes right up against it. Same with Barnstable at the Sampson Island. That's the second time that area is washed over, putting tremendous amounts. We know what happened at Sandwich at Town Beach. So sand is a great temporary fix, definitely not the permanent fix. And I think there's a handful of other projects that we've done where we have built up back barrier beaches as well to try to look and try to fill that part of the component, like a Turn Island, for instance. And I think the takeaway for us is that sand has no borders. There's still this feeling that if it goes to Falmouth, that's where it ends. It doesn't keep on going to Mashpee or it doesn't keep on going to Barnstable. And I think it's a regional challenge that we have that has to be really looked upon regionally. And some things are happening like that as well, where we are seeing some collaboration taking place to kind of relook and revisit, the sand budget and see what's really happening, because a lot has changed in 20 years. And we look forward to partnering with all of the towns and the other groups here, because we do see that we have this capability, especially now seeing this opportunity with the various salt marshes, that I think we could play a very important role in helping out. Thank you.